I used to believe that family was sacred, that no matter what life threw at you, those blood ties would keep you grounded, protected. But I learned that sometimes family isn't what breaks your heart, it's the lies that grow inside it. My name is Marin Locke, and the story of how I lost my sister, my husband, and my belief in loyalty all in one night began with a text I was never supposed to see. It was 2:03 a.m. on a Thursday. I was half awake, tangled in sheets, my phone buzzing softly on the nightstand. My husband, Felix, was asleep beside me, or pretending to be. The glow from my screen illuminated a name I knew well. Callum Straight, my brother-in-law, my sister Alara's husband. My heart skipped. It wasn't unusual for him to text. We were a close family, always sharing random group updates, but this message wasn't in the family chat. It was directly to me. "You looked incredible tonight." That was it. No emoji, no follow-up, just 7 words that made my stomach twist. I blinked at it, wondering if I was reading it wrong. Maybe it was meant for Alara and he tapped the wrong name. I waited, expecting a frantic sorry or some correction, but instead, 3 dots appeared, paused, then disappeared. My pulse quickened. Then the dots came back. I shouldn't have said that. Forget it. I stared at the words, cold creeping up my spine. I didn't reply. I turned my phone face down, heart thudding, and lay there staring at the ceiling while Felix breathed steadily beside me. When morning came, I convinced myself to let it go. People say things they don't mean when they're tired, right? I told myself it was nothing. But when we met for brunch 2 days later, Alara glowing as always, Callum charming and perfectly put together, something in his eyes made it impossible to forget. He avoided looking directly at me. When he finally did, it was for half a second too long, and my husband noticed. I could feel it, Felix's gaze flicking between us. Later, in the car, I waited for him to say something, but he didn't. He just asked, "You good?" And I nodded, even though I wasn't. Weeks passed. I tried to bury it under routine, work, dinner plans, family events, but the memory of that text kept resurfacing. And then, small things started to feel off. Alara would invite us over, but sometimes Felix would suggest we skip. When we did go, he and Callum always drifted off together, whispering, talking about work stuff. Felix and Callum were in similar fields, corporate strategy and finance, but they weren't that close before. Now they suddenly were. One evening, during a barbecue at my sister's house, I went inside to grab more drinks. The sliding glass door caught their reflections in the window, my husband and Callum, standing close, talking fast. I couldn't hear every word, but I caught a few. "She doesn't know. Handle it. It's done." My heart dropped. That night, after we got home, I asked Felix directly, "Is there something going on between Callum and me that I don't know about?" He froze for a beat, then gave a half smile. "What? No, what are you talking about?" "He texted me weeks ago," I said, quietly, "at night. It was weird." Felix sighed, rubbing his temples like he'd been waiting for this. "He told me," he said, finally. "He said it was a mistake, that he'd meant to text Alara, not you." My throat went dry. "You knew? Marin, come on, it was harmless. He panicked and told me because he didn't want things to be awkward. I thought it was better to just let it go." His calmness made my blood boil. "You thought it was better to hide it from me?" He raised his hands defensively. "To protect you, to protect them. You know how Alara gets. You'd only make it worse." That was the moment something cracked inside me. He hadn't protected anyone. He'd chosen silence over honesty. And now, every memory of the 4 of us, dinners, vacations, holidays, felt like scenes from a play where I was the only one who didn't know the script. I decided to test them. A week later, I invited everyone to dinner. Alara, Callum, my parents, a few cousins, the whole family. The air around the cable buzzed with casual chatter, but underneath, I felt a storm brewing. Callum kept glancing at his phone. Felix avoided my eyes. And Alara, radiant, oblivious, laughed like she didn't have a care in the world. Halfway through dessert, I stood up. "Hey," I said, voice steady, "can I get everyone's attention for a second?" All eyes turned to me. My heart pounded. I picked up my phone and set it on the table, screen up. "I got a text a few weeks ago," I said, "from someone here, late at night. Something inappropriate." I let that hang. Alara frowned. "What? From who?" I looked directly at Callum. He froze. Felix's fork clinked against his plate. "You're not serious?" Callum said finally, forcing a laugh. "You're not going to make it sound like—" "You texted me, Callum," I said, my voice cutting through his words. "At 2 a.m. You looked incredible tonight. Ring a bell?" Silence fell. My sister's face went pale. "What?" she whispered. "Callum?" he stammered. "It was a mistake," I told Felix. "It wasn't—" "You told Felix?" Alara's voice cracked. "You told him and not me?" She looked from her husband to mine, realization dawning like a slow, cruel light. "You both knew?" Felix reached for her hand, but she snatched it away. "We were trying to spare you," he said weakly. "We didn't want to start something over nothing." "Nothing?" Alara's chair scraped the floor as she stood. "You were texting my sister in the middle of the night." My parents sat frozen, the room thick with disbelief. And I, for once, didn't interrupt. I wanted it all to come out. The lies, the excuses, the carefully built walls of deceit collapsing under their own weight. "You lied to me," she whispered, turning to Callum. "You made me look like a fool." He opened his mouth, but she slapped him before he could speak. The sound cracked through the silence like thunder. Then she turned, eyes wet, to me. "And you? Why didn't you tell me sooner?" I took a slow breath. "Because I wanted to see who would tell the truth first." Felix stood up then, his expression cold. "You didn't have to humiliate everyone like this, Marin." "Didn't I?" I said. "You all made choices to protect your image. I just decided to stop protecting mine." The room erupted after that. Raised voices, accusations, apologies that came too late. My mother started crying. My father tried to calm everyone. Felix walked out without another word, his jaw clenched. I followed him to the door. "Where are you going?" "I'll stay somewhere else tonight," he said flatly. "You wanted honesty. Here it is. I can't keep being part of your dramas." "My dramas?" I repeated. "You hid the truth, Felix. You lied by omission." He didn't answer. He just left. By the time I returned to the table, Alara was sitting motionless, her hands trembling. "I thought we were close," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "We were," I said softly, "but sometimes love and loyalty aren't the same thing." That night ended with tears, shouting, and a silence that felt final. Felix never came home. 2 days later, he sent a message saying he'd need space. A week later, his things were gone. Alara filed for separation. Callum moved out. The fallout rippled through the family for months. Holidays were divided, group chats went silent, and family dinners became smaller, quieter. I thought the guilt would eat me alive, but instead, what I felt was clarity. Sometimes, exposing the truth isn't about revenge, it's about release. Months later, I started seeing a therapist, not because I wanted to fix what happened, but because I needed to understand why I kept forgiving silence. She asked me one day, "If you could go back, would you still expose them?" I thought for a long moment before answering. "Yes," I said finally, "because if I hadn't, I'd still be living in a lie, smiling at people who thought betrayal was just a misunderstanding." It's been over a year now. Alara and I haven't spoken since that night, though I hear through our mother that she's rebuilding. Therapy, new job, a smaller apartment. I'm rebuilding too. Different city, new home, new version of myself. Sometimes I still think about that dinner table, the shocked faces, the silence that followed. And sometimes I wonder if I could have handled it differently. But then I remember the feeling that came after, that deep, shaking exhale when truth finally takes its place in the room, no matter how much it destroys. Because in that destruction, there's freedom. I lost my sister that night. I lost my husband. But I found something better. A life where I no longer mistake silence for peace and loyalty for love.
You've just stepped into her revenge side, where every wound finds its justice, and every silence ends with truth. If her story struck a chord, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Your support keeps these stories alive. Another secret waits in the next video. See how her revenge begins.